All right, folks, welcome. Hour number 2 of the big Steve Malzberg show. And as you heard, Tim Huelskamp will be coming up front and center in just a few moments. I want you to hear something Chris Christie said. Of course, with Tim Huelskamp, we'll be talking about the Obamacare sign-up, the numbers that are out there, and also, of course, Obama's reaction yesterday and the Supreme Court ruling on individual donations to political candidates. That's the top news of the day. But I do want you to hear something that Chris Christie said in an interview that he did with Megyn Kelly on the Fox News channel. I think it aired yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Megyn Kelly asked him about the criticism he received for embracing, literally hugging, Barack Obama during the Hurricane Sandy Obama tour in proximity to the election. And many people have said that that played a part in legitimizing, in their eyes, Barack Obama. If Chris Christie's going to praise him and hug him in a time of need, then how bad could the man be? But, of course, Christie was hearing none of it, as you might expect. Give a listen.
Some people on the right in particular felt betrayed by that. They felt that you hurt Mitt Romney a week before the election in what appeared at that time to be a very tight race. Did you?
No. And the best source for that information is not me, it's Mitt Romney. And I've seen him publicly say over and over again that it had absolutely no effect or role in the race, either subjectively for the way he felt or objectively in terms of what their polls looked like at the time. So the answer is no.
The answer is no, because Mitt Romney told him so. Come on. Of course it hurt Mitt Romney. It was disgraceful. It was outrageous. Here's a guy who introduced Mitt Romney at the convention, and then in September, it wasn't September, it was the end of October, he's hugging the President of the United States and praising him. And praising him for what? He really didn't do anything. You know how many people, how many victims of Sandy are still without money, are still without a fixed home, are still without money to rebuild their business? But, of course, it had to hurt. He can't say definitively it didn't hurt. What he should have said was, I don't know. Everybody reacts differently. I did what I had to do because I was governor of New Jersey. That's why I did it. I didn't do it to endorse the president. If it led some people to vote that way, what could I do? But don't say, no way, absolutely not, definitely not. How could he say that? The whole country saw that. But that's Christie, man. That's Chris Christie. It's unfortunate, but he's a man of definitive statements, Asking a Muslim judicial nominee who has said that radical Islam has nothing to do with terror about jihad is a bunch of crap and BS, said Christie the other day. We played it for you yesterday. So, at least you know where you stand with him, but don't tell me people were not influenced. Some were not influenced by that bear hug that Christie gave to Obama during Sandy. Can't say no. All right, Tim Huelskamp is here right now, folks. I want the congressman to see this.
I've said before, I will always work with anyone who's willing to make this law work even better. But the debate repealing this law is over. The Affordable Care Act is here to stay.
All right, folks, that was yesterday, the President of the United States. And joining us now is Congressman Tim Huelskamp, Republican from the great state of Kansas. And welcome back, sir.
Pleasure to be with you, Steve.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. Just hitting the wire, actually, it's at the top of Drudge, is that a report ad on a Topeka ABC affiliate, KTKA, Newman Regional Hospital in Emporia, Kansas, is scaling back some services as a means of countering what they call, quote, the negative financial impacts of the Affordable Care Act, end quote. And we're talking about cuts at the hospital due to a $3.5 million million loss, 10 full-time employees, 5 part-time employees being laid off, and that's permanently, and they're going to save on that move $1 million. Then they got to come up with $2.5 million elsewhere, and this is in your home state.
This is in my district, Steve, and 15 families without a job. You know, given what the Democrats have said, I guess they've avoided the job trap. They now qualify for Obamacare and the huge subsidy. But all aside, this is what we're hearing all across the country.
Yeah, and these people were you met with these officials, correct?
Actually, had a meeting with an official from the hospital just yesterday. I knew those cuts were on the way. I didn't know what the full cause of those were, but we're seeing those across the board, and particularly with the cuts to Medicare. Obamacare is not working. It's not saving money. It's increasing cost, increasing bureaucracy, and it's making harder and harder for individuals in this country to actually get good health care.
So when he comes out yesterday, and you know, some are calling it a victory lap, some are calling it spiking the football, and he stands there and he scolds Republicans. Why do you want to take people's health care away? Why don't you want them to have health care? And you know, and claiming 7.1 million people have signed up, you know, and that it's settled. It's over. The debate is over, which is the same thing he says about climate change. You know, how do you react?
Well, the numbers are there's going to be 2.5 million American families lose a job because of Obamacare. And I don't think Republicans or anybody in Washington should say, hey, it's okay to force you to lose your job. I mean, that is a horrible outcome. We're going to see more and more of those things coming out of Obamacare. And I'm not going to give up on those 2.5 million families. But you know what? The president's taking the side of the big insurance companies, the bureaucrats in Washington. I think it's always a winning issue and the right thing to do to fight to make sure Americans can control their own health care. But I want to tell you, Republicans, at least in the House, we should be running an alternative to Obamacare. We should pass the American Health Care Reform Act. We should say what we're for. We should say how we can improve this system, because we got a lot of great ideas. Most of them aren't found in Washington, but we put them in one bill that is the alternative to Obamacare.
Well, what's the problem? Is it Boehner?
Leadership. It is. You know, it's April. For most folks in Washington, they think the election is just around the corner. And what I tell them is we've got to say what we're for. We've got to provide some momentum and vision. We've got to put a tax reform bill on the floor. Let's put a health care reform bill on the floor. Let's actually go through the IRS budget. They will not let us vote on things like that because somehow they think the American people don't care about what we're doing in Washington as far as taking on this administration. That's where I think they're wrong. And that's if we win this fall, which I think we can, it will be despite the establishment in Washington, not because of what we're doing.
And when you say the establishment in Washington, you mean the leadership of the Republican Party?
Leadership of the Republican Party, the lobbyists that are controlling the status quo, that are locking out tax reform, that have locked in decades of subsidies for preferred favored industries and preferred favored lobbyists. It's a very bad system for the average American. I think most Americans are looking at Washington. They know it's out of touch. And you know what? They're expecting at least the Republicans to do what they say they're going to do, and that's fight a system that's out of control.
All right, let's move on to the Supreme Court today, and the Supreme Court in a 5-4 decision coming down on the side of freedom of speech, and they ruled that limits on the total amount of money individuals can give to a candidate, a political party, or a PAC, those limits are unconstitutional.
Long overdue decision, and just last week the court brought up the issue of Obamacare and freedom of religion. I think this ties in very well. The First Amendment's very, very clear. This is a restriction on free speech in the political arena, which is what worried our founders the most after freedom of religion. So long overdue, a very clear decision. You know, all that stuff's going to be reported. That's what the court said. As long as it's open, reported, it's okay. We shouldn't restrict a guy in Kansas, for example, that wants to donate to 10 campaigns around the country. He should be able to do that. She should be able to do that, and that's what the court ruled today.
And you listen to the Democrats, they're already blasting it, and you know, they keep talking about the Koch brothers, but of course there are the billionaires on the other side. George Soros coming to mind as one. There are some others. There's a pair of brothers as well on the left that are involved, in fact, with Harry Reid and others from the reports I've seen. So you know, there are people on who are conservative and progressive, if you will, that are both affected by all of this. But to listen to the Democrats and the media, you would think it's just one side. And what do you make of this calling the Koch brothers, or anybody, but in particular the Koch brothers, when the majority leader of the Senate gets on the floor and calls people un-American? What do you think of that?
Well, this is the same majority leader that lied about their tax reports, lied about Romney's reports. Harry Reid will tell a lie if it promotes his cause. But at the end of the day, and the Koch family is from Kansas. Koch Industries is based in Kansas. But I don't think I can speak out of turn by saying, you know what? Folks should be able to make some money in this country. And the Democrats, they don't mind their side making the money. They apparently don't care that George Soros shorted the financial markets and made his billions. And they take that money, and but at the end of the day, it should be open, transparent. And what bothers them the most is the issues of freedom and liberty, and economic freedom and liberty in particular. Those are winning political issues, and they're going to have a tough time in November explaining away big government.
I mean, is this, just one more on this before I move on, is this, putting a target on someone's back, literally, figuratively? I mean, calling someone a successful businessman on the floor of the Senate in that capacity, from a man in that position, un-American because he just doesn't agree with their politics?
He's desperate. I think what he's trying to do is fan the flames of hatred and jealousy and greed. At the end of the day, that is not the American way. I mean, the American way is mobility, of folks saying, you know what, I can do that. I can move up the economic ladder. I can have the economic mobility. But you know what? At the end of the day, if government can take it away from the Koch brothers, or take your pick, that means they can take it away from anybody unless you come to Washington and say, Harry Reid, can I please do this? And that's what they love. That's the change with this administration. This is the most anti-capitalistic, the most socialist administration we've ever had in this country. It's so out of touch with the reality of most Americans, but it's an act of desperation, and they know they're losing in the polls, and that's why they always jump up and go after success.
There was a study out last week, I think it was a CBO, that said that a raise in the minimum wage would cost 15 businesses, the private sector, $15 billion, I think the figure was, and raise the deficit, et cetera. Not one major network reported on this. If it were the other way around, of course, it would be a front page news. Is this still going to be their mantra going forward? A, that I guess healthcare is working, and B, that we need to raise the minimum wage and make you guys try to look like the bad guys here?
Absolutely. Nancy Pelosi today said, boy, we can't run on Obamacare. I mean, after you take away everything they look at they've done, they've had full, total control of so much for so long. I mean, they're responsible for a flatline economy. They're responsible for millions who've lost their health insurance. They're responsible for 500,000 losing their jobs because of minimum wage. That's what would happen. And so they're left at running on envy and greed, and they have no positive vision. But I tell you again, I'll repeat again, leadership in Washington, Republican establishment has to understand they better be showing a vision, promise, if we want momentum for next year. I think we'll do well this fall. But not only do we want to do well, most importantly, it's not about winning elections. It's about getting policies in place to keep the American dream alive.
30 seconds. Any early favorites to succeed John Boehner next year?
Well, I think he's going to retire, and I think we've got a few folks that are lined up and that are looking at it, trying to encourage them to come out. The system is built on status quo. I think we need to replace the entire leadership team and start all over.
Are you interested in that position?
No, I'm not.
You're not? Okay.
Oh, I'm not. I'm interested in making some changes. I've got 4 young kids, and I got to worry about them first.
Oh, you got a name that you would like to see in there?
As I said, I hate to say a name because it might make them hard for it to win. For him to win.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, Congressman, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Hey.
Congressman Tim Huelskamp, ladies and gentlemen, a Republican from Kansas. Koch brothers from Kansas, this hospital that's cutting back and firing people because of Obamacare from Kansas. He's the right man to talk to at the right time, and we did. And we will continue the conversation with the panel. Rick Unger and John Gizzi will join us, and we'll continue bringing the best analysis you could get on Newsmax television.
Tonight we are